Yan! Yan na! Ayan na, kamusta dyan mga kameta, mga ka-weekend? Nakita niyo ba yung update dyan? Meron na daw Marites State University. Ayan tayo. Don't worry guys, medyo seryoso pag-usapan natin today. Balikan natin itong issue ng tinatawag na middle powers, role ng Korea, Japan, some lessons we can learn from this country, anong pwedeng aasahin natin sa mga bansa na yan. Medyo pag-usapan din natin yung politika natin dito sa Pilipinas. But also, I want to also a bit discuss, medyo mag-zoom out tayo literally. Let's go almost galactic, no? Intergalactic. Tignan din natin itong latest footages, no? Analysis ng footages na dumating dito from the James Webb Telescope at kumpara ito dun sa Hubble Telescope. Isipin mo, baka parang pwede mo isipin na napaka-geeky naman yan. But honestly, I mean, it's just mind-boggling when I researched about the mechanics behind this telescope. It took billions of dollars to build this telescope. They had to send it 1,000,000 miles into space, keep it at minus 300 degrees frozen kasi konting heat lang could create blurry images, create a tennis-sized solar shield para yung init ng sun na hindi pumasok. Then kasi napakalaki ito, 2-story tall, nalampas sa 20 feet itong telescope. So they had to like kind of fold it and, you know, compartmentalize it and then send it into space with more than 340 points of potential errors. Nothing went wrong at 1,000,000 miles away from Earth at negative 30 degrees with a tennis field size shield protecting it and keeping it at negative 30 degrees, and then boom, that's it. Dun sa Hubble's telescope, it would have taken weeks, not up to 2 weeks to send back yung images. Dito, ilang oras lang nasa-send back yung mga images. And the images it captured, my goodness. I mean, you could see it, I know it almost by heart now kasi grabe, mind-boggling when you look at the engineering that went into it and how miraculously everything went wrong, no? Out of 344 points of potential error, nothing went wrong, no? Grabe yung engineering na ginamit ito. Tsaka swerte rin talaga tayo. Many things could have gone wrong. So that puts you a little bit more, puts more faith into science, no? Ibang klase ito eh. And then, ito mga na-capture guys, 13 billion years ago, no? Ang mga lights na dumadating, it took 13 billion years at the speed of light para dumating itong mga infrared rays para ma-capture natin dito sa James Webb telescope na ito. And of course, the universe is yung from the Big Bang, ang estimate is 13.8 billion. No? So lumalapit na tayo doon. Actually, pwede umakyat ito to 13.4 billion light years away. So, I mean, at the rate we're going, we might come up with the technology soon, within perhaps our lifetimes, God willing, whereby we can look into images of the first galaxies and essentially the first universes that came out of the Big Bang. I mean, like, it's crazy. Like, alam mo, it's like, kasi sabi ko, tingnan ko nga na itong James Webb na yan. Daming nagpo-post na sa Twitter, si Obama rin nag-share. Parang sabi ko, okay, tignan nga natin anong nangyari dito. Kasi, syempre ako, nag-research ako once in a while. Because, you know, when you do research on natural sciences, guys, it really opens your mind. No? It really makes you realize how infinitesimally small we are or how pathetically, small time yung away natin dito sa Earth, no? Pag titignan mo yung universe. At the same time, naniniwala din tayo na we are special. I mean, it's really our gaze upon the universe that gives it a meaning. I mean, if not for us, I mean, the universe will be just there. Now, ibang usapan na kung may aliens, pwede natin pag-usapan yan kasi si Kaku, yung Japanese American physicist, may mga ideas din siya on aliens. His idea is that the aliens, because they're 100,000 years ahead of us in terms of technology, they might already know how to bend time and space. So, meron na silang time loops and all of that. I mean, this sounds like science fiction, but the more crazy scientific breakthroughs we experience in our lifetimes, the more what seemed to me science fiction and magical is more looking to me like it's just a matter of time if science and research and technology is given more time. Tapos ito pa, may natutunan ako today guys. Apparently, sinend itong telescope na yan from a French territory, malapit sa equator. And apparently, if you send a rocket near the equator, you can use the velocity of rotation of Earth para mas may hatak siya papunta sa taas, diba? Hindi yung hatak sa election na hatak, Vote buying. Hindi, ito yung hatak na physics na hatak to. Parang, wow, I mean, I learned a lot just thinking about this. And it's amazing, guys. Ako talaga, I'm telling you guys, you have to be lifetime learners. Never think you know enough. Porkit magaling ka na dun sa field mo, whether sa medicine, whether sa law, whether sa social sciences, whether sa whatever, right? Wag kang mag-feeling na eto nang buhay. Actually, there's so much more to learn from life. And ako nga, every time I'm in this kind of an existential philosophical mode, I go into, really into metaphysics, no? Metaphysics, ito na naman tayo. Kaya nga yung Einstein's clock ba yan? Yan, napaka lalim na novel yan. Nasaan ko nilagay yan? I mean, honestly, guys, we have to appreciate. Ako nga yung sinasabi ko na talagang dun sa ating next generation, we have to inculcate more love for science and mathematics because instead of us being intimidated by it, we have to just love how far we have come since our ancestors to understand the mechanics of the universe. And the more you get to know about it, the more it's just so mind-blowing. And the ability of human beings to achieve so much in just a few thousand years is just, I mean, God bless humanity, right? Grabe yung mga achieve natin yan. Now, I'm also talking about these things kasi ayoko naman na yung usapan natin, guys, ay puro na lang nega at politika at puro mga tatay politics. Although, I mean, sorry to segue a little bit, may nakuha tayo. So, I think this will be a perfect segue for my discussion today. Kanina, meron tayong confirmation na yung China po, ito na, Marites University na tayo. Etong China po, ay nag-cancel na yung mga ibang projects niya na purong pangako lang pala nangyari. So may update from Cesar Chavez, yung bagong, dating Chief of Staff ni Isko yan, of course, as you may know. And dati rin nag-work sa Duterte administration, ngayon sa bagong administration. Nag-cancel na po yung China, yung mga bagong project nila, no? Ayan tayo, walang yan. So, wala. Nabudol tayo. Kaya sabi ko nun, kayo naman, paniwalang-paniwala kayo dun sa mga argument na mga liberal na, ay, death trap yun, Sri Lanka tayo. Sabi ko, it's even worse in a way because, or not, I mean, depending how you look at it, kasi walang darating ng investment sa China. Budul-budul lang yan. Napaano lang si tatay doon. Ito meron ng confirmation. I'm reading pa Philippine news agencies, the government pa yung source ko. Ito may confirmation na tayo na China has withdrawn from loan agreements for 3 railway projects now. So, after Chinese government failed to act on the funding request by the Duterte administration. Wala talaga. Ito si tatay talaga, amateur talaga. Sabi ko sa inyo, amateur yan eh. Wala siyang alam sa global geopolitics. Kaya ano lang taken for a ride talaga yan. I always said, hindi mangyari yung death trap dahil walang investment na nangyari to begin with. Napaka-konti, di ba? I'm talking about big-ticket infrastructure projects, no? Ayan tayo. Wala, as in halos wala. Zero, itlog. Itlog to mga projects, no? So in January, the contract for the $142 billion PNR South Long Haul project, also called the PNR Bicol Express, was awarded to the joint venture of China Railway Group Limited, China Railway No. 3 Engineering Group Co. Limited, and China Railway Engineering Consulting Group. Purong China eh. Yung consulting China, yung engineering China, yung workers China, joint venture ng mga China. Ayan tayo. Yung isa pa, yung Tagum Davao Digos segment of the MRP. Yan, nag-fail din. Nako po. At saka yung contract din sa Subic Clark Railway Project. Lahat yan na binigay sa China Harbor Engineering Corporation. Wala to. Awanan talagang. Yan ang problema, guys. Kung you elect amateur people na nagyayabang, wala naman alam sa global politics. Tapos pinagtatawanan nyo kami, dati ko pa pinaward, nako po, ano lang yan, pangako lang yan, huwag kang mag-ano dyan, maniwala dyan, ayan. Sinong amateur sa amin dalawa? Sige, ano? Sige, 2018 pa lang sabi ko nga, may sinulat na ako Chinese Chimera. Mali pareho, ba't yung liberal, mali din sila. Akala ng liberal, dagsaan ng debt yan, take over tayo. Yung naman mga kaganyan, bahala ng China the best. Ito 4 years ago itong sinulat ko. Itong 4 years ago sinulat ko to na ito ay chimera. Ito ay budul-budul lang. Walang mangyaring investment dito. Alright? Ano lang yan, pangako lang yan. Nako po, ayaw kasi maniwala Alam mo, if our governments put people who really know what they're doing, right? Hindi naman ako nagyabang, pero yung mga katulad natin na may alam talaga sa buhay, nakapag-aral, nakapagpunta around the world, nakapag-usap sa mga world leaders, nakapagsulat ng mga libro international published, baka naman may mangyari sa ating bayan eh. Pero kung tayo ay puro mga Dolomite Beach, purong populist na napaka-empty slogans, performative, ayan, paasa, pinasa tayo, niloko tayo. Niloko tayo doon sa 3 to 6 months, pangako. Yung nagloko ng 3 to 6 months, naloko din siya doon sa $24 billion. Ano naman, budol-budol. Multi-level ano to? Multi-level scamming to, pyramid scheme. Ay. At you know what? Ayan tayo eh. 6 years, just like that, walang nangyari. If we played our cards well, we could have got billions from China. Because to be honest, I'm not against Chinese investments. I like Chinese investment if quality investment, gumamit ka ng Filipino workers, may technology transfer, at walang kapalit pagdating sa West Philippine Sea. Eto si tatay, love, mercy, mik, ayan tuloy. Na 3 to 6 months din siya. Yan kasi, akala ng tao, you can run geopolitics, you can run foreign policy, like you can run like barangay. Ito ulitin ko 4 years ago, sinulat ko yan. 2018 pa lang sabi ko, wala yan. Ipopost ko yan tignan nyo na naman yan Kasi guys, pinag-aralan namin yan Kilala na namin mga ganyan style. Ito, ulitin ko Ito, April 16, 2018. Ito, 4 years ago sinulat ko yan. Pakibasa. Multi-level scamming ang nangyari dito mga mga kamarites. Yan kasi, maghaydaryanahe tayo. Ang istorya si tata. Ako, ito kasi guys, alam mo, supportive naman ako dun sa sinasabi ni Tatay Digong na dapat less dependent tayo sa Amerika. Supportive na ako dyan. Okay ako dyan. Supportive din ako dyan sa idea na we have to diversify, look for partners. Pero guys, even you have the right strategy, meaning objective and goals, if palpak yung tactics mo, if low level yung negotiation strategy mo, wala talagang mangyari guys. Ito na nga yung buti pa yung Laos, yung Indonesia, yung Thailand, whatever, yung Vietnam na nga, na kalaban ng China, na parati sila nag-away, may nakuha pa silang subway investment from China. Tayo, nabudol, multi-level scamming. Kaya ako ngayon, sana, itong bagong presidente natin, in fairness naman, mukhang mas nag-iisip. Ito, sabi ko nga, ang strategy ni Bongbong Marcos, sa tingin ko, or what he should pursue is what I call multi-vector foreign policy. No? Sana yun ang fina-follow ni Marcos. Mukhang so far, that's the strategy. I'm putting trust and confidence kay Secretary Manalo and people in our strategic team. Sana maayos to. Kasi guys, please, wag na ganon. Be responsible, guys. Saan yung civic duty natin? Sabi 3 to 6 months, maayos yung problem. Naniwala naman yung iba. Tapos sabi niya, don't take it. Okay, fine, 6 years. Ano nangyari? May sustainable, ano nangyari? Tapos dito sa China, ano? Ito na. Dating, ang nag-booking pa nga yan, mga taga-dating admin pa nga Nasa dating Duterte admin pa to binuking niya. Ang source ko, Philippine News Agency. Wala. Yung sa Davao, wala. Yung sa Mindanao, wala. Yung sa Clark, wala. Purong wala. Yung Bicol, wala. Lahat yan. Tapos kung natuloy pa, tingnan mo naman ito joint venture of China Railway Group Limited, China Railway No. 3 Engineer Group Limited, China Railway Engineering purong China At nasaan naman ang mga Pilipino? Nasaan yung mga trabador natin? Nasaan yung ano natin? Ayan tayo, guys. Kaya nga kahit 200%, kahit 101% approval rating ng isang tao, it doesn't erase incompetence. It doesn't erase the fact na, kaya mga kameta, Kailangan talaga natin i-level up yung sasabihin, bias ka, amboy ka, walang iya. Walang iya. Kami pa yung mali. Ikaw pa yung masama for pointing out na binubudol tayo. Yan ang problema natin. So let me be very clear again. I am all for strategic partnership with China. I think there's a lot of benefit we can get from cooperation with China. Kung ako ang DFA secretary ngayon, I'm all for cooperation with China. At the same time, our red line should be clear. Dapat kung may projects, may Filipino input, may technology transfer, may Filipino workers. Pangalawa, quality infrastructure, hindi budol-budol. Pangatlo, talagang may investment, hindi multi-level scamming ang mangyari dito. Pang-apat, pinakamahalaga, hindi ka magsakripisyo ng West Philippine Sea interest mo, yung sovereign rights mo, etc. Ayan tayo. Talagang the problem we have is, guys, walang accountability. The most incompetent people get away with anything, no? And then idadaan na lang yan sa Dolomite populism, performativity, bola-bola. Nasasayangan talaga ako, guys, kasi pinagtatawanan tayo around the region. Pinagtatawanan talaga tayo, guys. Kaya yan ang talagang problema natin. Oy, Jody, pinagsasabi mong amboy dyan. Ako nga nag-criticize sa US parati nun eh. Sabi ko nga US, kulang ang support nila sa atin nun. Buti inayos nila Trump at Biden. Sabi ko, mali yung intervention ng US sa Middle East. Daming namatay dyan sa Iraq, Afghanistan. Mali yung withdrawal style ni Biden. I criticize all of that. Oh, you see, if you're independent-minded, which I am, unlike your people or some people out there, you criticize both sides. I criticize US, I criticize China. Kasi that's the only way, guys, that you show you're independent-minded. Yung mga attack-attack lang sa US para defend sa kabila, yung mga attack-attack dito, defend din. Ay, nako. Walang ya. So, guys, sana, please spread the message. Ito, multi-level scamming po ang nangyari sa atin. Dapat di na mangyayari ulit sa atin yan. Dapat bawal na ang amateur hour. Dapat bawal na ang mga budol-budol style na ganun. Kawawa ang taong bayan kung purong nasasayang yung oras natin. In that 6 years, if you put someone competent in power, sa tingin ko may makuha pa tayong $1 to $2 billion investment from China. Sigurado yan. At magandang investment. Because China will respect you if you have self-respect. China will respect you if you are a country that knows its strengths and weaknesses but makes the most out of its strength. China will respect you if you know how to hold your line. Ano ebidensya? Tignan mo yung Vietnam. Kahit inaaway ng China, meron pa rin silang investment. Tignan mo yung South Korea. Kahit nagdi-defend sila doon sa Yellow Sea, may mga disputes, etc., nag-invest pa rin ng China. Nako po, Japan na nga, nakaaway ng China, mas maraming investment nakuha sa China yan kaysa sa atin. Eh. Kaya kailangan mo talaga dyan, yung may alam sa buhay. Hindi yung purong performative. Ayan tayo, umiinit talaga ulo ko. You see, I don't feel like, I told you so. Hindi ako ganun. Parang nagaganon na ako. Sana naman may natutunan tayo. This is 2022. This is more than 4 years ago, right? This is what I wrote in 2018 saying this will exactly happen. Chimera, right? This is just a budol. Kasi nga, mali yung negotiating strategy, yung approach. Kung mahusay yung strategy and approach, I want to use some examples but parang hindi na politically correct yan eh. Wag na, baka maano pa tayo dyan. So far naman so good under Marcos Jr. I think we're doing what I call multi-vector foreign policy. No? Kung saan, we're trying to engage multiple powers simultaneously to avoid overdependence or over-alignment with one, but at the same time, in certain dimensions, we can have more cooperation with one side than the other, depending on what's the interest at stake. Alright? Okay. So yon, guys, please ha. Please. Huwag kayong makinig doon sa mga kasyungahan, ignoramos na mga vloggers, mga gano'n, na wala namang alam sa geopolitics, hindi nag-aral ng Chinese statecraft, hindi na alam geopolitics. Ayan kasi ang problema natin. Even our sources of our opinion are joke time. Hi, Now, sabi ko nga, so far, I think Marcos is correct, getting it more correctly than Tatay. Because Marcos is following his father, who got foreign policy more correctly than most presidents. Now, as I said, I have everything against dictatorship, human rights violations, economic mismanagement, corruption. I'm talking about foreign policy here. So, yung ginawa ni Marcos Sr. noon, he kept our alliance strong with the US, but at the same time, he engaged the Russians, he engaged the Chinese, leveraged that to get the most out of Americans, but always may backup option siya. Hindi yung mumurahin mo yung Amerika, pumunta ka dito, tapos mabubudol ka rin kasi wala ka namang backup plan. Ayan tayo eh. Ayan tayo eh. Ay. John Rosales, kanina ka ba nagtatanong? Google mo yung pangalan ko. I have written a ton of stuff on how we should approach our foreign policy. Pakibasa, okay? I'm sick and tired, buslaway na yung nangyari sa akin. Or at least, basahin mo yung mga sinunod ka about Marcos' foreign policy. So far, I'm 100% correct dun sa projection ko on how the Marcos cabinet will come through. I said he'll put professionals. That's exactly what he did. He put a career diplomat for the first time in almost 20 years. I said he's not going to be as pro-China and anti-US. That's exactly what's happening right now. So, let's see. I mean, of course, things can change, but I'm saying so far, I think Marcos Jr. is getting it more correctly, at least than Tatay. But let's see how we're moving forward, no? Anyway, ay, nagsispam ka na. Kanina ba? How po? Ano ba yan eh? Basta, John Rosales, wag nung defend yung incompetent people. Kung alam nyo naman sa loob-loob na medyo syunga-syunga nangyari, wag nyong pilitin. Wag nyong sabihin, genius yan, art of war yan, genius yan, di mo maintindihan. Natatawa nga ako dun sa mga trying hard. Kinukot yung art of war ni Sun Tzu para i-explain yung ginagawa ni ano. Ay, hindi Sun Tzu ang ginamit dyan, Barangay Zoo. Okay? Actually, yung mga barangay chairman na ibang kausap ko, matino-tino eh. Nagigets niya nga nila yung, pati nga yung ibang barangay. Prof, di ba parang ganun yung, di ba parang hindi tama yun? O, ba't yung ibang barangay chairman natin, mas gets ba nila yung foreign policy eh? Nasaan na yung sunset? Ayan tayo eh. Ayan tayo talagang. Hay, daming trying hard. Tapos palpak, tapos pilitin, tapos yung mga maita. Okay, so in short, I was right and both sides were wrong. Mali yung kabila, yung opposition nagsabi, madi-death trap tayo Sri Lanka style. Guess what? You were wrong because you didn't listen to me too. I kept on saying walang investment na mangyari. Mali din yung kabila kasi masyadong umasa naman dun sa, alam na, love. Alright? Mali silang pareho. Both sides were wrong. Okay? Except one side was in power, so there's more responsibility. At the same time, let me also say, kudos to our former NEDA Secretary Pernia and shortly after Carl Chua for also making sure na properly vetted itong mga infrastructure projects na yan. And nakausap ko rin si Secretary Balisacan. By the way, ipopost ko yung interview ko with Secretary Balisacan soon. Ayan, nalabas na yan. Para makita niya, nakausap ko rin siya dito sa issue ng investments ng China. So, mataas din ang tiwala ko kay Secretary Balisacan to vet the projects properly para hindi tayo mabudol-budol or hindi tayo ma-Sri Lanka. Alright? So, eto, good news is, hindi tayo ma-Sri Lanka. Not so good news is, nabudol tayo. Alright? Bahala na kayo mga ganun dyan. Basta, one thing is clear. Both sides were wrong and Tatay was an amateur. He had no business. He had no idea about what he was dealing with. Okay. No comment na ako dun sa mga online casino and all. Ibang usapan na yan. Ibang usapan na yan. Okay. Kalma lang tayo. Kasi umiinit ulo ko, to be honest. This is really frustrating. Balik na lang tayo sa, sa telescope, to be honest. Mas masayang pag-usapan ng galaxies kaysa itong mga... Honestly, guys, sometimes it gets really frustrating, I'll be honest. Like, you know what's frustrating? You go around the world, they invite you in the Stanfords, Harvards, they invite you in the the most influential countries, invite you to give them advice on regional politics, on China, etc. Even the Chinese invited me. I was in Hainan in 2019. I talked about this. And then yung sarili mong bansa, not only hindi ka pinapakinggan, binabastos ka pa, inaaway ka pa. Parang, bakit ko pa ginagawa to? Well, shameless tayo. I mean, kasi ako parang, as much as dismayado ako, parang okay, so what? If madidismaya ka lang for that, then how are we gonna improve as a country, right? Diba? Pero I'll be honest, there are times na parang talagang umiinit ulo ko na parang, ano na mangyayari sa atin yan? Ano na mangyayari sa atin? Puro na ng Dolomite style. You know? We got the smartest minds in this country. So either they're not listened to or they're driven away. So good luck na lang sa atin kung parating ganun. At the same time, let me also say, ang problema sa maraming matalinong tao ay hindi sila nag-engage sa taong bayan. Kaya parating advice ko dun sa mga friends ko na professional, matatalino, sabi ko, engage kayo, do vlogs, write, blog, whatever, engage people, get the message out. Kasi karapatan ng taong bayan na magkaroon ng, let's say, informed opinion. Not expert opinion, but informed opinion sa mga bagay-bagay. Alright? Alright. Sabi nung isa, waterproof, parang ubus na laway na ata tayo. Ay nako. Yung mga katulad ko, naging foreign minister na sa Europe. Walang ya. Okay. Yung dinate lang natin nung isang year, ngayon nasa German parliament na. Bakit ganon, sabi ko? Kausap ko lang kahapon, biglang nandun na sa parliament, yung isa naging head ng isang defense department, wala. Ganyan talaga. Tayo, magbablog na lang tayo. Ayan tayo. Kung sino ang may narami na sulat, analysis, ganyan, okay na. Thank you, Lord. Ako, basta, thankful ako, andun kayo, guys. I'm thankful na ikinig kayo sa akin. Walang kape. Tubig lang. Hay. Balik na lang tayo sa, James, yung mga web telescope. Nasa stress lang ako pag Pilipinas ang pinag-usapan. Ito na lang mag-usapan natin, Hubble versus James Webb. Muni-muni lang. Looking at the galaxies 3.5 billion light years away. Okay. Pala na. Balikan natin to. Now, one of the big problems, guys, na meron tayo dito is that when we talk about international affairs and politics, napaka-simplistic ang tingin natin sa international system. The most simplistic way is what a lot of journalists, a lot of policymakers, a lot of vloggers, a lot of ignoramos do, which is they look at the system as hierarchical and essentially between two poles of power. US, China. That's it. And pinakagasgas na ginamit na this is an African proverb. The idea is that if there are two big elephants, if they fight, the grass will get, smashed, and we are the grass. And if they make love, and I keep on hearing that. I'll be honest. There was a very high-level Singaporean official in Europe. I was in Munich. He gave a talk and he used that and said, "Tayo, we're just the grass." And I just lost it. I said, "No, we're not the grass. We're not the grass. Maybe we're not the elephants, but some of us are lions, hyenas, zebras, etc." You see, when you have the wrong metaphor, you get it wrong. Now, the good thing though with Singapore is that although they may not use the best metaphors when they discuss geopolitics, they have the right actual military and defense strategy. Unang-unang, in Singapore, may military service. I'm not saying dapat meron tayong ROTC necessarily. Pangalawa, ang Singapore, ito yung bansa na they put in charge the smartest people. Yung mga nagiging officials sa Singapore are the smartest of the smartest. These are the top graduates of the top universities. And hindi lang sila matalino, not like born only with high IQ. They're hardworking people. Their CV shows that. They're well paid. They're well experienced. They can work in private sector. They can work in public sector. They're globally oriented. At katulad ng sinabi ni Prime Minister Mahathir, you have to learn and pick up the best lessons from countries around the world. In fact, yun yung point ko kay Mahathir na parang, he always talks about Asian values, tayo Asian, unique tayo and all. But actually, at the same time, he admits he learned a lot of things that he did in Malaysia to modernize Malaysia from other countries from very different cultural backgrounds. And yet, by tweaking it, it worked. So, You see, and then Singapore also massively invests its armed forces. I had a Japanese friend who was a defense expert. He's teaching in Korea now, but he also served in Japanese self-defense forces. He was telling me when he was based in Singapore and he analyzed Singaporean armed forces, they're actually one of the best. Sabi niya almost ka-level yung Japan. Ay, hindi ako naniwala doon. But, I mean, and Singapore is not a U.S. treaty ally, but they have a more robust defense cooperation with U.S. than the Philippines. Right? So they're meritocratic, they're hardworking, they have very high standards, and they invest in defense, their defensive capabilities, etc. And they have quiet but very robust cooperation with America to keep them protected from China. See? Now, where I'm not very impressed with Singapore is, of course, it's not a democracy like Japan and South Korea and Taiwan. Kaya mas impressed pa ako sa mga bansa na yan because they're both highly developed economically but also more democratic than most white Western countries, right? Like, Taiwan democracy, kumpara mo sa US, sobrang sabog yung Amerika, di ba? Or yung Italian democracy, kumpara mo sa South Korea, parang no comment, di ba? Daming budol-budol din doon sa Italy, from Berlusconi to Northern League, may bago ng, baka most likely maging next prime minister ng Italy, maging ano na, budol-budol lang naman. So, what I'm saying is, we're not learning the right lessons from we keep on saying, oh, Singapore, dahil ganyan sila, strict sila, chewing gum pa lang, ganyan-ganyan, mga kulong ka na, dapat ganon, dapat matatag ng leaders. What we forget is that Singapore has smart, hardworking, not lazy, not tamad, not bara-bara leaders. That's why they're successful. So, the irony is that we put tamad people, incompetent people, na pa-strongman, and then we think magically will be Singapore. Like, anong klaseng ano yan, di ba? Put the smart people in charge and smart people who have decisiveness, right? Dapat combination na yan. Yan ang kailangan natin para medyo mag-level up naman tayo dyan. Tuloy, hindi na tayo Singapore, ano lang tayo. Alam niyo na, fill in the blank. Kaya ako, kahit anong sabihin mo, 80%, 90%, 101% approval rating, it doesn't matter because that's just popularity contest. Ang kailangan natin dyan is performance, KPI. If you look at the performance, my goodness, FDI inflow, industrial policy, defensive, anyway, not to mention human rights violation. I mean, in Singapore, even in their worst decades, they didn't have tens of thousands of people killed in a drug war. They never had something like that. Korea didn't have that. Taiwan didn't have that, right? So, please lang. Even the non-democratic in the region have been less bara-bara in their drug wars and dealing with the crime and law and order issues. So, sana naman. Now, so I said, the problem is that there's a very simplistic understanding of international relations as basically hierarchical, meaning US and China, that's it. The problem, though, that's not how the world works. So, as I said, I respect the Singaporeans in terms of what they do with their defensive capabilities. I get annoyed with the cliches they use, the poison shrimp. Okay, I like the poison shrimp. That's nice. But the elephant grass and all, they overuse that. Come on, right? And anyways, I think it's from Tanzania. Nyerere yata yung source ng quote na yun. It's not from really Singapore. But anyway, okay, moving forward. Ako, ang point ko is, actually, if you look at the system, you may have two big elephants, but you also have lions, you have tigers, you have, you know what I'm saying, you have all sorts of other animals in the zoo, which is our international affairs, which, you have the bear, which is the Russian, right? So the point is, it's not really it's not a system dominated by two countries. If you look at the international system, there's so many areas where China and US don't have the capabilities to exercise leadership, right? Look at climate change, for instance. Yung US sabog. Si Trump, climate change denier pa, diba? Ito si Biden, nagsistruggle to get support. Yung Supreme Court nila, keeps on taking out environmental regulation and all. Good luck with fulfilling yung mga Green New Deal, etc. nyo. Dun sa China naman, yes, they're creating solar panel, etc. At the same time, their carbon footprint is just humongous, right? It's the biggest in the world. Even on the per capita level, they're above average, you know? So I can give you many examples whereby neither US and China can really have a solution. Terrorism, for instance. US, bugbog sila sa Middle East, kaya nag-withdraw na rin sila. China, wala. Sa Xinjiang, nagkaroon sila ng protesta, wala, they just locked down the whole Xinjiang area. Like, I'm not sure that's the solution, right? When you have a minority that is disgruntled because they're not treated properly and their basic rights is not respected, right? So their accusation of ethnic cleansing, that's not a very smart strategy. That's a bara strategy. So I can cite you many examples where neither US or China are actually the global leaders. If you look at, for instance, the chip production, computer chip production, the global leaders are Taiwan and Korea, right? There are many areas of research where the global leaders are actually Europeans, not America or China. If you look at living standards, you look at welfare states, you look at educational standards, Scandinavian countries are in the best in the world, right? US cannot even compete, right? So I can give you many examples whereby US and China are not really the top guns. I mean, they're the big, yes, but So if you look at it, the system may have two big elephants, but there are other big players also here. May not be as big as the elephants, but they're big enough to make a difference, to mediate the relationship between the two elephants, and sometimes even nullify the elephants bullying the rest, right? Or even convincing one elephant not to fight the other elephant, right? So diyan papasok yung mga middle powers. So my definition of middle powers is, because may mga pretentious dyan na, oh, middle powers, there's no definition. Yeah, of course, but that's why we try. There's a theoretical research about that. I've cited it in my works. I have a long work on this. Sige, makinig na lang kayo sa vloggers, yung mga zero publication. Para yung level ng understanding niya mataas din. Ayan na naman. Nagbubuli na naman ako. Ba't ganun ako, no? Alaskador. Kasi ganyan na naman ako, yung mga daming pretentious dyan. Ito, ay may bayad pala. Ito yung pinublish ko sa United Arab Emirates by the Trends think tank. 21st Century Governance, the Rise of Middle Powers and the Future of Global Cooperation. Ay may bayad. 10 dirham lang naman eh. Dirham ba or dinar? Okay. Anyway, but I've written a lot on this. Just post Haydarian and then middle powers think tank. So you'll see the map of Australia, Japan, India, Germany, Canada, etc. So these are the middle powers, no? So what are the middle powers? They have three elements that make you at least a first tier middle power. Hopefully the Philippines one day can reach that. At least now we're third tier middle power at least. The first thing is you have to have credibility. Yung medyo maayos yung bansa mo. Yes, dirham, di ba? Dirham. Oh, see, I got the accent pa. Dirham. The first thing you need is you have to have credibility. So, you have to be a country na nire-respeto ng ibang bansa. You have to be a country na has soft power, right? So, clearly, pasok dyan ang Korea. Clearly, pasok dyan ang Japan. And you could argue definitely India is also there somehow, right? Because at least India is known as the biggest democracy, so on and so forth, right? The second thing is they have to have the ability to build coalitions. Meaning, hindi sila bara-bara, unilateral, coup style. Alam niyo yung coup style, di ba? Medyo Karen. Di ba? Nagka-Karen. Sabi ng isang tao, ano yung lalaki pag Karen? Coups. Sabi ko nga, coup style. Yan. Yung hindi ka coup style, you work with other middle powers. So, Japan works with Australia, Australia works with Canada, Japan, and Australia work, India works with Australia and Japan, Germany works with, let's say, Britain and Canada, yung ganon. So, they can coalition building. Hindi sila yung, basta ako tama, hindi ganon. Basta ako tama, right? So, there should be that element also of coalition building, credibility, but importantly, and this is where I see India definitely fits the bill, is capability. Capability to project power, meaning you can provide economic assistance abroad, you can provide peacekeeping abroad if necessary, right? You can provide technical capacity building assistance if necessary. So all of these elements, no? And you have the capability to protect your strategic autonomy, meaning kaya mo mag-no sa mga bigger powers pag binubuli ka. Case in point, Australia. Binubuli ng China, Australia, kine-question yung China's handling of pandemic. Sabi ng China, sige, tanggal namin ng mga imports ng coal nyo. Sabi ng Australia, let's go ahead, let's see, di ba? Sa dulo, yung China rin, nagpakamot na rin, they have to reconsider it, right? Or Japan minsan, right? Even if mas malaking China, hindi sila nagpapabuli lang, no? Or you had instances when Germany said no to US, right? Panahon ni Trump, lalo, nung bullying-bully si Trump sa NATO, sa Europe, Europe said, no, we're not gonna go along your way. We will do it our way, right? France, Germany, etc. So three elements, right? Capability to preserve your strategic autonomy, to act independently, not 100%, but sufficiently to have your own footprint. In fact, the Germans have a term for that. Let me get the exact we have to be accurate about this. Saan yung ginamit kong term? May term yan sa German. Ito. Ito. I think it's this one. Gestaltungsmacht. Oh, one second lang. Yeah, you have to have the power to shape. Yung Macht means power, no? Nasaan dito? Yeah, Gestaltungsmacht. Find it. But so the idea is that you have to have the ability to independently shape the international environment, or at least your immediate neighborhood. Number two, you have to have coalition building capability. Ito. Gestaltungsmacht, shaping powers, right, which facilitates the creation of Ordnung, orderliness. So I'm using the German terms. No? Ordnung, orderliness. So you have to create international order. Gestaltungsmacht. Yeah, shaping power. Okay, anyway. Basta, immer geradeaußen. Okay, you just go straight and change the order. Nag-alaman na tayo. Okay. Alright, okay. Sehr gut. Okay, now, going back to this. So three elements, no? So if you look at it, many countries meet that criteria. I would say Indonesia and Singapore almost meet that. I would even argue that United Arab Emirates almost meets that standard too, right? So, you have credibility, meaning you have some soft power. You have capability, you can project power and preserve your strategic autonomy. And third, hindi ka kups. You're willing to work with other powers to keep the system together. Etong lalong-lalo nangyari nung panahon ni Trump na sobrang sabog yung American foreign policy, make America great again, maga-maga, tapos yung China naman, ayan na, alam niyo na, di ba? So yung time na yan, yung middle powers had to break it together. So now, let me give you examples, no? Guys. Ordnung. Immer geradeaus. Yan, okay. Mamaya tayo magalit yung mga laman kong friends. Ayun naman tayo. Pwede talaga akong mag-stand-up comedy Naggaya ko lahat ng mga So let me give you some examples. And this is where we go to the legacy of Shinzo Abe. So if you look at Abe-san, as I said, there are concerns with historical revisionism, that there was not sincere apology for what happened in the Second World War, all of that. I'm not denying all of those things. We can have a discussion on that. But let me also tell you this, that, Japan has been a major player in the region. So if you look at it, for instance, Japan became the single largest source of big-ticket infrastructure investment. So, balik tayo dito, yung sabi ko, yung nabudol tayo, ito. Budol-budol, di ba? Purong pangako, walang dumating. Okay, now, let's look at the reality. Ang nangyari sa Japan actually is, they invested $367 billion in big-ticket infrastructure in Southeast Asia, or at least in terms of new pledges, which is far larger than China's $255 billion. Ang laki ng difference 30 to 40% yung difference, guys. So ang laki ng difference, alright? Now, so this is one, we always talk about China, US, but actually Japan has more investment in Southeast Asia, especially in the Philippines. No? Kaya nga hindi ko naintindihan bakit masyadong obsessed sa China at hindi tayo kasing appreciative dun sa ginagawa ng Japan. At least, yung mga taong bayan, yes, kasi ang taas na approval ratings ng Japan dito sa Philippines, parang plus 50, 60, China, negative 30. But yung sa government level, like, we treat Japan as if they're just like a secondary power. In fact, they are a stealth superpower. They're a major investor, biggest source of foreign assistance, development assistance, biggest source of our export destination for a very long time. So I'm just showing to para makita niyo yung sources. I'll send you all of this. So clearly Japan has ito from Bloomberg to title, China no match for Japan. dito sa infrastructure investment in Southeast Asia. Okay, sorry, wala akong, I can send it to you. Ito. China, no much. Alright? So, yun din ang problema. So, yung mga nag-research na hindi na pabudol-budol, alam nila yung katotohanan. Now, of course, Japan is also becoming a military force. So, most recently, there are discussions. So, ang Japan, panahon ni Shinzo Abe, nagbigay sa atin ng multi-role Coast Guard vessels. Itong pwedeng tumulong sa atin para bantayan natin yung ating karagatan. That was exactly our problem dun sa Scarborough Shoal, because dun sa Scarborough Shoal, wala tayong multi-role vessels Coast Guard. Pinadala natin ng warship, naging excuse lang sa China yan, ginamit nila yung excuse na yan, and then binuli tayo, pinalis tayo. Diba, sabi ko classroom, may term dyan, escalation domination. Pag may kausap ka na bully, huwag kang maglabas ng kutsilyo. Maglalabas siya ng barel, right? So you keep it at a certain level hanggang trash talk lang. You don't escalate it. Because once you escalate it, may mas malaki siyang barel sa'yo. There's no point in escalating it. So you keep it at this level and then you try to defeat them. So for instance, that's what Ukraine is doing with Russia, right? If Ukraine goes and bombs a Russian city, then Russia will go and drop nuclear bombs, right? I mean, they can go crazy like that. Or call for mass conscription. That's why Ukraine is very careful in retaliatory attacks against Russia. Because mas malaki siya eh. So if you escalate it, they can escalate it further, then no match ka na. But if you keep it at this level, it's like may kalaban ka na mixed martial artist, ikaw magaling ka lang sa boxing. Siyempre, siyong ka kung mag-mixed martial arts ka sa kanya, no match ka. So you say, pwede punching lang tayo. Parang ginawa ng mga YouTuber ba yan? Hanggang punching lang sila sa mga UFC fighters. Like, you don't escalate it because once I bring my legs in, he's far better than me. And they can kick the hell out of me. Although, of course, in reality, I'm much better in my kicking. But that's another issue. You get what I'm saying? So, dito sa Coast Guard ng Japan, it gives us an ability na bantayan yung ating karagatan. Salamat sa Japan, of course. A lot of these were grants. Na hindi tayo gumamit ng gray hull, military, but instead white hull, which is civilian. So that we can keep it as a civilian protection mission, right? Jurisdiction protection mission. At pwede natin protektahan yung ating mga fishermen folks, no? Yung ating mga ingista, no? Also under Japan, they gave us they're pushing to they gave us surveillance aircraft capabilities, and hopefully down the road we can get even choppers. We're looking at getting probably some advanced aircrafts. At some point, there were even discussions of Suryo submarines maybe down the road, or fighter jets, 4.5 generation fighters being developed by Mitsubishi. So there's a lot that they can offer. But the other country we're not talking about much is South Korea. So South Korea actually has become one of the world's largest. So I just wrote to finish an article on that. If South Korea could join the Quad or create a Quint or create an alternative Quad. And actually, South Korea right now is the 8th largest exporters of defense equipment. And one of the countries that has benefited a lot from South Korea's emergence as a defense player is Pilipinas. Remember, salamat kay Pinoy, let me just emphasize this, nakakuha tayo ng FA-50 fighters from South Korea. Before Tatay Digong to. So, yung mga ignoramos nagsabi, walang ginawa yung isa, purong salita lang, magbasa kayo, huwag kayong tamad. Okay. Salamat kay Pinoy, nakakuha tayo ng FA-50 fighters nun. So now we're back to 4th generation or barely 4th generation fighters. And now from there we can move up, no? But what Korea has developed now, so Korea is now developing a 4.5 generation fighter, right? Yung KF-21 fighter. They're developing it together with another middle power. This is Indonesia. So let me just show you. Itong KF-21, no? Para makita ng guwapings din to eh. Impressed ako. KF-21. So, yeah. Boromei. Yeah. Ito yung KF-21 fighter na din-develop ng Korea. Guwapo eh. Tingnan mo. Ito yung din-develop ng Korea. At ang kagandahan ng mga Korean products is, well, aside from skincare and electronics and all, mas mura sila kumpara dun sa mga French or American. And also the maintenance will be much cheaper. So it's like buying a Korean car versus a German car, but still may guapo, may dating, may high-tech, etc. So this is the KF-21 that we could buy. Nakabili na tayo ng FA-50 fighters, so hopefully we can get that. Now the other thing that Korea is also doing here is they're also moving up the chain of production, no? So, for instance, they provided K9 self-propelled howitzers to Australia, Egypt, and India, and then Persian Gulf nations of UAE, Emirat Al Arabiya, and Saudi Arabia have purchased Korean-made air defense systems. So, and then a lot of European NATO member countries, dahil sa war sa Ukraine, naubos yung kanilang mga armas. So ngayon, bumibili din sila from Korea. So recently, si Yoon, president ng Korea, na kasama namin sa conference the other way dyan sa Seoul, sa Asian Leadership Conference, he was actually in the NATO summit the other week, few weeks earlier, at nakipag-meet siya sa mga Central European leaders. And so they're gonna replenish yung mga armaments ng mga So see, so the Poland is about to buy Korean armaments. So Korea 20 years ago was not even in the top 30 countries. It was ranked 31st in the world. So you see, I know these numbers by heart because I was really amazed when I was looking at these numbers. They were barely top 30 in the world in terms of arms production and exports. Today, South Korea is 8th biggest arms exporter in the world, right? And the volume of their defense exports this year is about to breach $10 billion. So, ang Korea po ay hindi lang sa kotse, hindi lang sa skincare, hindi lang sa BTS, but oh la la, if we get the KF-21 from them, if we get the howitzers and some of the more advanced armaments and defense from them, and we can get it cheap and a good price, eto, guwapo na to. Mukhang F-35 eh. Meron akong F-35 dito ba? Ganda eh. Medyo mas maliit, medyo mas compact. So essentially, you're getting a BMW Mercedes-Benz at the price of a Hyundai, right? So, ito talaga guys. Lampas sa $10 billion ang mga defense exports nila ngayon. And now Korea is also about to develop nuclear technology in United Arab Emirates. Si Bongbong rin is asking the Koreans to help with BNPP. Sana somewhere else, hindi doon kasi medyo fault lines and all of that. But you get what I'm saying? Like, I mean, my goodness, look at Koreans. I mean, look at what they're building. It's just incredible. I mean, it's just incredible. Sobrang impressed ako na nakita ko to eh. Like, wow. Whew. Galing. Galing talaga. Dati binubuli-buli lang sila ng North Korea. Inanan sila. So this is the ceremony a few months ago when former President Moon launched yung prototype ng KF-21, no? So, I'm telling you guys, these middle powers, they can do a lot. They can help us a lot to develop our economy, to develop our capabilities para hindi tayo umasa lang sa mga Amerikano at saka para hindi lang tayo vulnerable sa China. Kaya guys, when you talk about foreign policy, wag nyo i-dumb down lang yan dun sa dalawang malaking higante. Because maraming ibang importanteng, capable, mas friendly, mas less coops, diba? Mas less Karen na pwede natin kausap at kamarites. Alright? So, salamat sa Japan, salamat sa Korea, salamat sa Australia helping us a lot in Mindanao. And by the way, India, oh my goodness, di ba ang India, salamat sa India, although may Russian technology ito, di ba may sinulat din tayo dito, salamat sa India, meron na tayong supersonic missiles na rin. And hopefully down the road, we can get the next generation hypersonic missile, BrahMos to. So ito yung BrahMos na kinuha naman natin sa India. Alright, so this is the article I wrote on BrahMos. It's one of the most read pieces on the BrahMos technology. So what is really behind the BrahMos? So we are the first foreign purchaser of this Indian missile system, supersonic missile system with Russian, kind of Russian derivative. We spent close to $400 million, $375 million on this. But hopefully down the road, we can get more from our Indian friends. Because India, just like Korea, can produce pretty good stuff. Di ba, magaling ang India sa generic drugs, di ba? Yung mga drugs, di ba, they can do it very cheap and relatively effective. Maybe not 100%, but probably, okay, ako na masalita, baka makasuhan tayo. But you get what I'm saying, yung mga generic drugs from India, di ba? So parang ganun na rin, na sa laway. Daldal kasi ng daldal. So I think we can also get, hopefully, dahil dito, we can move to the next level. Pero guys, ito na. Nakita ko yung sinasabi ni Inventor Acumen na nakakaingit naman. But guys, the good news is this. If Korea and India, who were like, purong import lang sila dati. In fact, Korea for the first time had more exports than imports just the other year. So for a long time, ang Korea, India, and these countries were also importing. Japan rin masyadong depende sa US. But slowly they build their capability. Kaya sana ang gagawin natin guys, mag-cooperate tayo doon sa ating mga kaibigan sa Japan, sa Korea, sa India, among others, para makapag-develop din tayo ng local defense industry. We are moving there but not good enough yet, no? We still have to go. Kasi meron tayong kakayahan. If we can do more joint ventures with them, more technology transfers, we can send our physicists, engineers there to get training and come back. Guys, within 5 to 10 years, kaya natin yan. First thing first, we have to develop the capabilities to maintain itong mga equipment na binibigay sa atin. Pangalawa, we have to have joint ventures so that down the road, we can have the capability to develop our own versions and cheaper. Pakistan na nga, na mas mahirap na bansa kaysa sa Pilipinas, may ginagawa na silang mga armored vehicles, etc. 20 years ago. So, kaya natin yan, guys. Ang kailangan dyan, unang-una, huwag tayong masyadong nega sa sarili natin. Yes, palpak yung mga leaders natin, but that didn't stop India or other countries from developing capabilities. You think yung mga leaders nila magaling parati, hindi rin eh. But, you see, if we give ourselves enough chance, may maabutan tayo. May abutan talaga tayo, guys. Slowly, we can get there. The first thing first is huwag tayo mag-give up. Second, speaking of budol, biglang may nag-message from one bank, biglang may advisor, your iAccess account is temporarily on hold. Tapos ako, wala naman akong account ng ganyan. Walang yan. Tapos magkita ko private number. Dami mga budol talaga, no? Anyway, let's give ourselves a chance. I think we can slowly develop our capabilities. I mean, tignan mo yung DOST nga, nag-develop ng sariling train natin, Philippine style and all, di ba? So, let's see. So, what I'm saying is, parang parang dating yan eh. Huwag kang yung gusto mo lang ganito. If you open your mind, you'll see there are many good options around the world, right? Oh, okay, now that came off wrong. Okay, let's just erase that. Let's not talk about dating. Basta, you get what I'm saying. Or let's say, talk about cars. Sabihin mo, ang maganda lang BMW and Benz. Not really, right? I'm talking luxury. There's Lexus, there's Maserati, or there are also nice, Genesis, etc., Acura, etc. You get what I'm saying? Huwag tayong masyadong dito lang sa dalawang higante dahil marami pang ibang bansa na pwede pa tumulong sa atin at hindi sila Coops, hindi sila Karen. Kasi yung problema sa mga superpowers, Coops sila eh. Minsan yung iba more than minsan. Okay, alright. Thank you so much, guys. I hope you enjoyed our conversation today because it's not your usual Marites, right? It's more, I hope, substantive Marites. I give you the numbers. I'll post down lahat ng links sa mga discussion natin. So ito, medyo serious mode na tayo once in a while. Kasi may mga nag-nega dyan. Ba't ka kasi nung the moves ka? Nagpa-vlog tayo. Hindi naman pwede 100% seryoso tayo. Pero at the end of the day, guys, nakikita niyo naman yung ginagawa natin dito. Alright? So thank you so much for your support and all. And alam ko Saturday na, mag-ano na tayo. Okay. Uy, nakikita ko na yung comments niyo, by the way. Just to say. Yun na. Ba't di lumalabas yung... Paano kaya to? Nakakatakot mag-press. Baka ma-impress ako biglang makita niyo yung kaguluhan dito sa bahay. Dito na lang. Para kung sakali may mali. Ano to? Ayan. Nakakatakot mag-press ng button. Baka kung anong lalabas. Ayan tayo. Ano yan? Okay. Ayan, okay, mag-thank you muna ako. Sige, salamat. Wait lang, lagay ka. Daddy na. Guys, nagigets nyo ba? Na-appreciate nyo ba itong ginagawa natin dito? I hope you appreciate it, guys. Okay? Swerte nyo nga eh. You're getting a, you know what I'm saying, New York Times, CNN level contributor. Almost for free. Lalong-lalo yung mga boy libre na hindi nagbibigay ng stars. Kilala ko kayo, yung mga dami mga perfect attendance, pero perfect din ang libre time. Ayan tayo. Thank you very much ulit kay Naomi Tablada for joining us, for Jenny McBride, for Annabelle Gamoras. Thank you very much. Shoutout naman dyan. Sabi ni Emerson Rosario, andyan ka pa rin ba? Good afternoon daw kay Angel, sabi ni Angel Lou, si Malores Malari. Kamusta po? Yan, nakaabot din. Sabi ni Wena Kamayo Chunako. Kamusta po? Heart naman daw. Sabi ni Annie Mangundayaw. Pwede talaga ako mag-radyo, no? Mga Ano yun? Papa Jackson, Papa Rich. Ayan. Sige, next time, call in kayo. My love life. Sir, ito yung problema natin sa love life. Anong mga meta solution natin dyan? Ayan tayo. Ayan. Sabi ni Kevin, bakit tayo magkamuka? Pati nga. Hindi rin. Kahit di ko nakikita, alam ko hindi. Hindi. Hindi tayo kamuka. Basta mag-enroll ka muna sa Marites State University. Alright? Sino kaya maging chancellor? Nakita niyo to? Yung Marites. Walang yan to. Walang yan talaga. Grabe. Grabe talaga. Sino kayong chancellor nito? Ito. Marites State University. Ay, ang ganda, oh. Talagang laki ng budget. Alam niyo na sino mga stars din. Ang laki ng honor section siguro nito. Dami nag-enroll. Puro mga honor section. Ang taas ng entry exam result eh. Waki Villanueva, salamat for joining us. Yun, no? Salamat naman dyan sa mga ka-team live. Yun, no? Salamat kay Rovelyn Catalogo. Thank you na ako kay Naomi Tablate, ang ating BTS Heart Purple Kazadi. Helen Baez Espena, salamat for joining us. Salamat kay Ma'am Fanny San Miguel, supporter natin yan. Ganda daw ng cup ko, sabi ni Gibet Tiro. Ba't tayo ganun mga Pinoy? Pagkasama tayo, parati tayo naghihingi ng something from each other. No? Parang, mag-meet kayo after 2 years. Wow, okay ka lang bro. Tapos, bro, palibre naman. Walang yan. Or parang, nag-meet kayo after 3 years. Bro, ganda ng jacket mo. Pahingi naman. Ayan tayo eh. Kaya nga parang pag nag-catch up ako dun sa mga kaibigan ko na medyo wala akong tiwala. Mga damit ko, mga ganyan lang. Mga t-shirt lang. Tapos punit-punit yung ganon. Para kung may extortion racket. Hindi maganda yung makukuha. Kainis yung mga ugali natin. Parating palibre, pahingi. Ba't tayo ganon? Mendicant foreign policy nga, sabi nga niya, no, diba? Eddie Coronel, thank you very much for your support. Naomi Amarillo, thank you very much. Nakakameta tayo from QC. QC ka wala tablare. Ayan na naman si Mike Rojas na hindi pa rin nag-star sa atin. Ilang dekada na tayo nag-usap dito. Ayan tayo. Thank you, John, kay Kim Box. Yun, no? Thank you, John. Ay, wala masyadong. Parang, thank you, John. Tapos parang, walang star. Ay. Alam mo, parang nagde-deflate na. Ay, wala na akong gana mag-greet. Ay, wala. Di niyo ako mahal. Di mo ako love. Wala. Tampo na ako. Ayan, salamat. Ito talaga si Mike, ang daming mga emoji, ganon. Iba dyan, matutunan naman kayo. Walang yan talaga. Rizani, thank you very much. Ayan na. May inflation guys, alam ko. Kaya, ambag-ambag yan. Ambag-ambag tayo dito. Kailangan natin. Ayan na. Ito na yung dulo, di ba? Yung sayaw-sayaw ka sa park, sa dulo, tanggalan mo yung cap mo. Maglagay na kayo, mayo kayo. Ayan. Ayan. Joanna Garcia Leta, thank you very much for your support. Ayan, siguro Saturday kasi kaya nag-gimmick yung iba, kaya hindi nagbibigay ng star ngayon. Salamat kay JC Sorenses, salamat po. Yun eh. Nasaan na yung mga natin, mga big sponsors natin? Salamat kay Che Rosal. Ayan. Baka hindi kayo, alam mo bakit konting stars? Kasi si Tata yung topic. Alam mo kahapon si Lenny, konti lang usapan natin, hindi naman 20, mga 30 minutes. Daming stars bigla, talagang kayo. Parang pansin kong si Lenny pinakamataas stars, si Tatay, tapos pag si Ganon, pinakamaliit ang stars. Pero okay lang, hindi naman ako audience captured eh. I will say what I have to say. Jovet Prudente, thank you very much for your support. Very, very kind of you. Everett Texon, very, very kind of you. Ayan na mga kabudol-budol tayo. Bjorn Damo, Zalamat. Alex Peredo, Zalamat naman dyan. Exit. Ano yung mga host na nakakainis? Lahat ng X ginagawang Z. Hindi nga ang X pati S naging Z. Zalamat, Zadi, Exit. Ayan. Parang pag Z siya, mas Ayan. Salamat. Thank you very much kay Ana Victoria Buenafe. Thank you kay Geoff Cabillion. Tama? Kabillion. Yan, si Che Rizal. Compromise na po yung West Philippine Sea sa pledge trap. Tanungin nyo si Tatay. I mean, the fact that Tatay had to multiple times threaten our relations with US, not fully implement yung EDCA, which we have to discuss even more. Lahat yan nag-benefit sa China. Tingnan nyo yung data by Jay Batumbakal, yung kaibigan natin sa UP Law. He has some good data on how much illegal fishing China has been doing in our waters and all. But yung mga kaibigan natin sa UP Marine Science Institute, sabi na mga UP, mga bias yan. Walang yan naman tayo eh. Tapos ang source niyo, mga no comment. Ayan, thank you naman dyan sa, sorry, I cannot read Chinese. So, yes, thank you very much for your support. Sa friends natin dyan. Ayan, 80% support for basta Dolomite Times. Panay drawing lang. Sabi ni Geoff Kabillian, pakipublish. Sige, wala kasi akong, guys, alam nyo naman yung schedule ko, di ba nasa Korea tayo? Ang grabe yung schedule ko, 9 to 9. 9 to 9. Tapos, dahil libre yung breakfast, for the first time in my life, gumigising na ako ng maga para makalibre ng breakfast. Yung kain ka ng yung 3 plato, tapos lagay ka ng coffee na hanggang dito, para hanggang hapon, solve ka na. Kasi yung next mo, dinner na. Ayan na naman tayo eh. Yung mga Ilocanos na, kaya aga ko gimising, kaya konti lang tulog ko, sobrang pagod ako. Well, swerte nga kayo, kahit nasa conference ako, nagtatalk-talk pa ako eh. 2 pa ngayon talk ko ng isang araw eh. Ayan go, salamat naman daw for your support. Salamat. Anong daw? Salamat talaga sa support mo. Ayan. Yung isa, tanong ng tanong, wala naman sabi ni Zachary Paul, medyo, huminga tayo. Yes po. Kalmado lang. Mamita Corrales. Guys, ina-upload ko rin to sa Spotify, yung mga gusto mag-jogging lang makinig sa Marites natin. Gawa nga ako ng Marites podcast. Ito, pakinggan nyo. Ako, nag-jog din ako eh. So, minsan, masarap mag-Spotify lang. Dire-diretso ako na Joe Rogan. 2 hours, di ba? Kahit anong gawin mo, kahit 7-Eleven ka na lang after jogging, makinig ka lang kay Joe Rogan, dami Marites, yan. Marites ng mga lalaki, mga Tolits Club yan, Tolits. Rod Sagian, Brad Pive, yun, talagang supporter natin yan si Brad Pive. Ana Buenafe, salamat po. Yan, mga friends natin dyan from LA. On a lighter note, kilay is life. Ayan naman tayo, Marlon eh. Magandang kilay natin, anong kasalanan ko? Tanungin nyo yung gumawa sa atin. Alright. Danny and Sisa. Maraming salamat naman dyan. Yan, mga friends tayo from Japan. Why gozaimasu, JJ Indino. Yan. Hopefully, guys, nga pala, sorry pala dun sa mga friends sa Korea. Sana nag-extend ako, kaso mahal ng hotel eh. Buti binayaran yung ibang extra night ko eh. Kasi dapat release lang yan. Promise, guys, mag-meet and greet tayo doon sa mga kababayan natin abroad. Balik ako sa Europe God willing. Catch up tayo doon sabihin ko sana ako. Basta yung mga taga-Europe, message niyo ako later Set up. Yung mga Qatar, di na nagpakita sa akin eh. Kasi gusto ko sana mag-World Cup eh. Sabi ko mag-ambag ako, mag-ipon ako. Pangbili ng sa Qatar. Tapos doon ako, bet spacer tayo. Excited ako, manat kay Messi, Ronaldo, ganon. Tapos walang sumagot na taga-Qatar ang sumasagot. Oman, Emirates, Bahrain, malayo eh. Gusto ko, Qatar talaga eh. Ayan tuloy. Salamat naman dyan. Sabi ni Mitch Tengcho, happy weekend. Ayan go, yan talaga. Kalma lang. Di nga ako nagkape para kalma lang eh, pero hindi pa rin yan. Si Sir Noe, the best yan. Salamat sir. Abus na pala yung 3-in-1 ko. Ayan. Pero guys, I hope na-appreciate niyo yung discussion today. That was pretty serious on middle powers. I'll post you guys sa baba yung I'll post you sa baba yung discussion ko about middle powers because we really have to have a much more diversified understanding of things. And I hope you also appreciated, guys, yung discussion natin about dito sa James Webb Telescope. I mean, this is insane. I was just looking at the engineering that went into it. It's mind-boggling. Grabe. Salamat din kay Ma'am Jocelyn Lombrerio. The best yan si Ma'am Jocelyn. Thank you very much. Thank you kay Christina Marin, kay Grace, kay Tayama. Kung may mga tanong din kayo, issues kayo na pwede natin discuss, pakisend, but I'm not gonna promise. Last time nagtanong ako Anong gusto niyong pag-usapan? I got 972 questions. Okay, there's just no way I can answer 972 questions. Even nung na-cluster ko sila, I was able to answer 80 to 100 at most. Thank you kay Marisa Marasigan, kay Renato Raimundo. Yun na. So yan, good vibes lang tayo dyan. Geoff Kabilan, Charity Ursal. Yun na. At least naayos tong natin. Thank you kay Che Rosal, Real Talk daw. Dami Marites. Ayan si Rachel Harrison, si Tita Rachel. Thank you very much for joining us. Ay, may utang ako kay Tita Rachel. Palibre pa ako. Ayan tayo. Kapatal ka ng mukha ko. Salamat kay Eunice Babalcon. Ayan siya natin. Taga Taiwan ba kayo, Mayor? Ayan. Si Katrina Frias. Supporter din natin yan. Si Eden Olonan. Yun na. Si Ayan Go. Yan. Si Katrina. Biglang bumait sa akin lalo. Okay. Kung may tanong kayo, sa akin, discuss natin yan. Balik muna ako sa trabaho ko. I have to write more on Korea's defense policy. So, again, guys, reminder lang. Ito yung mga sources na ginamit natin. So, may kakalabas lang akong article kanina on Korean defense policy. Base doon sa visit natin sa Korea. Ito. So, kung Korea could join the Quad, etc. But this is Japan. I have the data. I'll post you guys. I use it also in my articles on Shinzo Abe. Ganyan. Alright. So, don't worry about it. I'll post everything sa baba. Ito yung long paper natin. Only 10 dirham. United Arab Emirates. Habibi, only 10 dirham. Put together, that's around 10 dirham is ilang makanya yan? 300 stars lang yata yan, no? Yan, 300 stars lang siguro yan. Alright. Okay. Thank you very much. Muchas gracias. Hasta Monday na kasi Mañana is Sunday, so it's Sabbath day. As you know, I rest on those days. Thank you rin pala kay Luisa Baytak. Xie. Ayan, yes to Japanese ODA. Dun sa mga friends natin dyan. Including our Chinese friends, Ay, baka Taiwanese yan. Cooking for lunch, sabi ni Eden Olonan. So, ako yung, yung iba, naglilinis. Ganun na palang meta ko, yung pag maglinis ka ng, kusina. Yan, pakinggan ko to si Darian. Pag ako ng shoes ko. Minsan, nakikinig din ako sa sarili ko para matawa lang ako. Tapos, ayan, naglinis ng shoes, gano'n. Jigs, Arones. Masaya din. Try ko rin. Basta upload ko mamaya guys sa Spotify. So please guys, support our Spotify. Guys naman, show support para naman maganaan ako. Wala naman bayad dito Tsaka libre naman mag-star dyan Bigyan ka ng star dyan. Wala nang dito. Ito. Richard Haydaran Podcast. Alright, pakisupport. Naka 140 stars na, ratings na tayo. Pag umabot tayo na medyo 1,000, nasa na tayo? Top percent na tayo sa Pilipinas. Alright, so yun ang target po natin, 1,000 ratings. God willing, mataas na rating. Please give us the highest possible ratings. It's essentially updating our metas. By the way, meron akong interviews na in-organize. One is our good friends, si Dr. Lero. She was based in Sao Paulo. She's from New York. I think she'll be in Manila soon, God willing. Mag-usap din kami, by the way, about what the pink movement can learn from Latin America. So we're gonna discuss Latin America from someone who came from Latin America, based in Latin America, but also Pinay American, right? So don't worry guys, I'm also organizing stuff para ma-discuss natin dito sa meta natin. Also ma-discuss natin, malagay din natin sa podcasts and all natin. Alright, so I'm trying to arrange things in my limited capacity, etc. Medyo busy tayo guys. At least, thank God, nakasubmit na ako ng grades kahapon. Medyo gumaling mga estudyante. Nag-overachiever mga estudyante ko. For the first time, I think, may nag-perfect ng final exam ko. Like, wow, in fairness, magaling. At dalawang nag-uno sa class ko. So, kudos dun sa mga estudyante natin sa San Beda. And advance, kudos dun sa mga estudyante ko sa UP. Alright, okay. Talk to you guys soon and more updates. All right. Dom Mount, Leo Modino, thank you very much for your support. Chun Pen Wong, thank you very much. Yes, gracias. Yan. Dami. Si LV Corsino, salamat din dyan. Ayun, dami palang comments dito Sorry, nami-miss ko yung iba. Mag-thank you na lang ako separately mamaya. Ayan, oh. O yan si Eunice Babalcon talaga, si Ma'am Eunice the best yan. Supporter natin ng big time. But si Zaida Benavides, thank you very much kay Ann F. So yun na, abangan niyo yan. May interview tayo mga experts about, hindi pa naman siguro face to face eh. Siguro Zoom ko na lang gawin ulit. Try ko in the future face to face. Mag-imbita akong tao, upo siya dito, upo ako dito. I'm just, medyo maarte kasi ako, OC ako so hindi ko pa nagagawa yung mga in person. Kasi ano ako shy ako in person. I'm a shy person. Yung mga nakita sa akin in person, they know that I'm very shy. Or hindi rin. Ako yung extroverted introvert. Alright? Yun ako. I'm an extroverted. I'm an introvert because I spend most of my time alone because I have to read and write and all. But once you put me with human beings, I know how to handle myself. Alright? Marine, sorry. Myrenelian Basilio. Alright. Salamat po. Thank you for your support. Thank you rin kay Marilyn Manuel, Akamaran, Gasper de Sabila, Renato Raimundo, Gloria Ruiz Co. Hindi, kailangan ko talaga mag-thank you eh. Gilson Frias, para hindi naman naisipin na ako, hindi ako appreciative. Fenny San Miguel, I really appreciate every sign of support. LV Corsino, Main SC, okay, gabi na yata. Okay, alright, magsi 6:30 na. Salamat guys. Have a blessed weekend. Enjoy your Saturday. Have a good time with your family and loved ones. Make the most out of your Sabbath day. And then Monday, God willing, we'll talk more. And if you have some very important issues you want us to discuss, then let's go. Alright? Maraming salamat. Thank you very much. God bless. Muchas gracias. Adios.